in the FBS with 44. This is a lot of turnover. So I think they could be in trouble, Greeny. And we're talking again about what Deion says off the field and not as much about what he does on it in terms of the win column.
Remember, what he is trying to do out there in Colorado is make a university, a football program that was irrelevant. No one cared about Colorado football. Nobody. What did you expect him to do?
And so here we go again, back with another one. Welcome back to the Dark Times channel. And before I get started, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button for me. And if you're not new to the channel and you've been enjoying the content so far on this channel, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that sub button for me as well. And so here we go. We're almost 24 hours away from Deion Sanders and Colorado kicking off the season on prime time.
We will see Colorado in prime time, literally in prime time, Thursday night.
And as you all know, we got a lot of people that are looking forward to watching Colorado trying to do some things this year, but on the other hand, we got a lot of people looking forward to watching Colorado fail.
Here, so Heather, by December, Colorado will be what?
An afterthought, Greeny, with 4 wins. When I look at their schedule, ESPN Analytics has them as a heavy favorite to win their season opener. I also think that they can get wins against Cincinnati, Baylor, Colorado State is one that could be tricky, but I look at this lineup and I see a lot of L's on there, to be honest. Remember, they have a whole new roster again, the most transfers in the FBS with 44. This is a lot of turnover. So I think they could be in trouble, Greeny. And we're talking again about what Deion says off the field and not as much about what he does on it in terms of the win column.
And so what a ridiculous thing to come out of her mouth. You're talking about a head coach that took over a 1-win football program. What more do you want from him?
$1,000 a month. What more do you want from me?
And my man Louis Riddick, one of my favorite football personalities, just a very insightful individual. Every time he opens his mouth, every time he's on television, you're going to learn something. And so he got a little straightened in there with Miss Heather. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all check it out. And then, of course, I'll come back and chime in.
Yeah, I think, look, obviously, like that graphic says on the bottom there, what's more important for him, wins or relevance? Look, they're already relevant now. He's got everybody's attention. It is now shifting to wins, and he understands that because he's been a winner. He's been a winner individually at the highest level because he's one of the best football players to ever put on a uniform. And he has been a winner as far as being a Super Bowl winner, so he understands what team success is looking like. Remember, what he is trying to do out there in Colorado is make a university, a football program that was irrelevant. No one cared about Colorado football. Nobody. What did you expect him to do? I understand that culture is something that is hard to do when you're having upwards of 40 transfers and that kind of turnover on your football team every year. But he has no other choice, quite honestly. He has to, because he's trying to get this thing up off the ground like right now. Here's the key for Colorado this year. It's not skilled players. It's the big men. It's the offensive and defensive line. We did 2 of their games last year. They have skilled people that can deal with anybody in the country. It's the big men where they were totally, and I mean totally outmatched. Now, if they can get competent play out of that, his son is a bona fide superstar at quarterback. He will be fine. Travis Hunter is a bona fide superstar who you see on your screen right there. He will be a high draft pick. But it's the big men. It's the big men and whether or not then his coaching staff can put them in positions to win football games. But look, there's been other teams that have really jumped head first into the transfer portal, and they have had success. Maybe not to the degree that Deion has had to with 40-plus transfers, but there's been other teams like Florida State, who we're going to do their game this coming Monday, who Mike Norvell has been a master at using the portal. Don't knock the portal. The portal isn't the issue. He's trying to win games and bring back a university and a football program that was dead.
And so thank you. Because it's an asinine argument to try to use the logic because Deion Sanders in Colorado used the transfer portal like everybody else does. But because they used it to the max, because they needed it, probably more than any other major program in the country, because they used it and they needed it, that somehow it's going to be to their detriment and somehow it's going to cause them to lose more football games, or at the very least to not be a better football team than they were the previous year. What a ridiculous argument to try to make. But this is what they try to do. This is what they try to do. And you already know why. They'd be fine with Deion Sanders winning at another university. They'd be fine with Deion Sanders winning at a Florida State, a Georgia, one of these big-time universities. But if Deion Sanders can win at Colorado and can get to a playoff game out of Colorado, now that says a lot about Deion Sanders, especially when these other universities didn't want to give him a shot because he's black. And that's not my words, that's your man Paul Feinbaum's words.
That black coaches, particularly in the South, where I live, have had an incredibly difficult time getting hired because athletic directors just don't have the stomach for it. They don't want to hear from the fans, and
that's a microcosm of society. And as I always say on this channel, sports is a microcosm of society and how it operates. And Deion Sanders is a perfect example of corporate America. When you get in there, you got to be twice as good. And then on top of that, when you get in there, you better keep your head down and your mouth shut and be grateful that we gave you a job. But Deion Sanders is somewhat of an enigma. You can make the argument that Deion Sanders is probably in the conversation of the greatest sports player ever. He's somebody that yields a lot of power off his name alone. And so he's not going to be shucking and jiving. He's not going to be skinning and grinning. He's going to be calling people out. He's basically going to be able to do the same things that Nick Saban was doing. And that's a problem because a lot of people think that he hasn't earned it because he had a so-called horrible season last year. And before I dive into that, let me go ahead and play a clip of Molly Quorum on First Take. She actually has something pretty insightful to say.
You just can't.
Paul, before you jump in, and obviously, as Stephen A. mentioned, it transcended sports, but we keep talking about the 4-8 record. I do want to mention 5 of those 8 losses were one-score losses.
And so finally, leave it to Molly to finally call that out on national TV. If you look at Colorado's record last year, they lost a lot of close games. A lot of close games to a lot of ranked teams. Other than Oregon, outside of that Oregon game in which they were severely outmatched on both the offensive and the defensive line, outside of that game, every ranked team that they played, they lost by a touchdown. And then, of course, they beat ranked TCU at the beginning of the season. And so that's why people have a great deal of excitement when they're talking about Colorado. Because this is not the same team from last year. The same team that was outmatched in almost every single game when we're talking about offensive defensive line. Every game they went into, you already knew going into that game they were going to be outmatched up front. And they still managed to be in almost every single ball game. And so that's why people are excited and looking forward to this season. And Coach Prime in Colorado are going to get in that ass.
I was all-city strong safety at Dorsey High School, and I'll get in your ass. And not the way you want me to, Sexy Dex.
But that's going to be a wrap on this one. Let me know how y'all feel about it in the comment section. And, of course, I'm going to try to be as active in there as I can. And, as usual, peace and chaos.